All right, welcome to this lesson on transitions. This is a should do lesson. And in this lesson, you're going to be able to understand how to properly use transitions in your writing. You should do like you've done with other lessons and take your own notes, and there will be a mastery check still at the end of this lesson. And you'll know you mastered it if you get an 80% like you usually do. So what are transitions? Transitions are used to show how different parts of your writing connect, okay? They really help to structure the text so that you're linking your ideas from one idea to the next, whether that is between paragraphs or whether that's in a single paragraph. The whole idea of a transition is to link your ideas together so that you just don't have an idea and then drastically have a new idea just happen. Okay, so transitioning between paragraphs. In new body paragraphs, your first sentence, your topic sentence, should actually transition from your previous paragraph into the current one. So it should show two things, what this paragraph is going to discuss and the way that it relates to the previous paragraph, okay? Writing is actually way stronger when your transitions are at the start of a paragraph rather than in the concluding sentence of a previous paragraph. So you'll see in some places where it'll tell you to use your transitions more in your concluding sentence going into the next paragraph, but that's an extremely difficult thing to do and do well to make sure that all of your ideas still flow. Most of the time when you do that, it actually takes away from your writing. So you want to try to transition within your topic sentences rather than within your concluding statements, okay? Let's look at some examples of what I'm talking about. So in this first example, which is incorrect, it says the consensus view is clear from these quotations. The following paragraph discusses some scholars who dissent from this consensus. And then their next sentence begins, the first dissenter to consider is. All right, what's happening here, and the reason why this is incorrect, is that you're talking about this consensus view being clear, and then all of a sudden, it starts talking about how some people then dissent. So you can't say it's clear and then say people are dissenting in the same space. So it would sound a lot better to end the previous paragraph with the consensus view is clear from these quotations, and then start your next topic sentence as, however, several scholars dissent from this consensus, and the first one to consider is this. Okay? See the difference between ending with a transition and starting with the transition. Starting with it makes the writing much clearer. Another way to transition is simply within a single paragraph. Okay, so these actually will help your reader move through your argument from point to point within a paragraph and then into other paragraphs. And it helps to avoid ambiguity. Ambiguity is the idea of having more than one interpretation. So you don't want your reader to have their own interpretation. You want them to understand what you are saying. And so transitions help you to stay clear and avoid someone interpreting what you're saying wrong. There's also this thing called known new contract, okay? And Scribbr.com says that this is where you state that a new sentence should generally begin with some reference to information from the previous sentence and then go on to connect it to new information. So I'm going to show you exactly what that means. So again, let's look at an incorrect known new contract and a correct one. In your incorrect, it says the Industrial Revolution has various effects on the population. Urbanizing, involving the concentration of formerly rural populations in the new industrial towns, was one major effect of industrialization. So in this sentence, it's incorrect because the second sentence doesn't actually follow very clearly from the first one. The connection only becomes clear when we reach the very end that it was a major effect on industrialization. So you just have things that are a bit out of order, okay? It's more correct, and so I'm sorry, I forgot that I highlighted those for you. It is more correct in this second statement The Industrial Revolution had various effects on the population. One major effect was urbanization, which involved the concentration of formerly rural populations in the new industrial towns. So you can see that things are reversed in the second sentence to keep the idea flowing clearly, right? So by reordering the information in the second sentence, it begins with a reference to the first sentence, and that helps our reader follow the argument more clearly, okay? Note that this idea of the known new contract is a general guideline. Like, not every sentence needs to be structured this way. It's just a useful technique if you're struggling to make your sentences connect and sound more clear, okay? Transition words and phrases are things that help the reader see these connections from one idea to the next, okay? And they can function in a variety of ways. They can introduce new information or examples. They can signal a contrast or a departure from the previous text. They can describe cause and effect, or they can indicate a sequence, all right? So these are things that transitions can do. Let's look at some examples of what each of these looks like, okay? So we found that the mixture was effective. Moreover, it appeared to have additional effects we had not predicted. Notice, I'm sorry, we're gonna go through all four apparently because I messed up the transitions, but I'm gonna tell you with that first one. Notice that it introduces new information or examples with the word moreover, right? So we say that we found that the mixture was effective, and then we're introducing that it also has other effects. In our second example, the novel does deal with the theme of family. However, its central theme is more broadly political. And in this case, we're signaling, the word however is signaling a contrast or a departure from the previous part, right? That at first it deals with family, but then it changes to being more political. In our third example, because Hitler failed to respond to the British ultimatum, France and the UK declared war on Germany. And in this one, it's describing a cause and effect. And then in our last one, this has historically had several consequences. First, the conflict is not given the weight of the other conflicts in historical narratives. Second, its causes are inadequately understood. Third, blah, blah, blah. So you can see the use of words like this indicate sequence of events. It's also important that you group similar information together, okay? You want to make sure that you don't overuse information, and you want to keep things that are similar together so that you can use less transitions. Like, you don't need to use a transition in every single sentence of your writing. For an example, in this example, it uses 3 transition words, and it jumps back and forth between idea, which makes the writing difficult to follow. So you can see it says Smith argues for the former hypothesis. However, Jones argues for the latter, while Davy agrees with Smith. Moreover, Baldwin also argues the former hypothesis. So you can see, like, all these transitions just make it jumpy. It's better when you group all that information, all those people and dates you want to talk about in one, so you don't need all those transitions. So in the second example, Smith, Davies, and Baldwin all argue for the former hypothesis, whereas Jones argues for the latter. Now we only need that transition whereas, which makes the writing more concise, easier to read, and easier to understand. If you want to dig more into transitions, check out the attached article here. Otherwise, now you know what transitions are and you should know how to use them. Go ahead and check your mastery of this content.